My name is Hannah Crow, and I'm in the Design for Web and Print program, and I have 2 more classes, so just 1 more semester before I graduate. Afterwards, I'm planning on transferring to UT for a graphics design, studying graphics design. I want to do all I can. And while I've been here at Pellissippi, I've taken so many web design courses, and I've learned so many valuable information about designing for a client and how that interaction works. But when I first came to Pellissippi, I was just an artist. So I have a lot of knowledge about the composition and colors that look good together, and how to begin a process of creating an artwork. So when I see a graphics design project, I see it as an artwork. I want this to look good, to appeal to people, and to have a meaning behind it. So I'm going to get started. This looks a little different. Do I just X out of this? Is it okay if I X out?
Yes.
Okay. And then here. Okay, this is me, and I think I left it open from before. All right, so as I said, my name's Hannah Crow, so of course I had to include a crow in my portfolio. So he sticks with us in the beginning, but in the first introduction here, I wanted to be very friendly and open, because I'm a very friendly and bubbly person. So when I was designing this website, I wanted to maintain a friendliness and an openness, but also a professionalness that could show that I do have experience with graphics design, and 1 more semester before I graduate. But I did want to begin it with an artwork. So this is actually a digital artwork that I did on Photoshop with a pen tablet. So a lot of what I do with my free time is I illustrate and I paint from life, and from human anatomy, animal anatomy as well. And I love Bob Ross, so I do a lot of landscapes. But as well as that, I love to capture colors that have meaning, and I transfer that into my graphics design work. And I'm also a fan of fantasy things, so a lot of that ties into my personal work that you will see as we go. And on the topic of fantasy, I wanted this to be a little bit of an adventure. So my portfolio is kind of like a, come with me, here's my stuff, we're going through the forest of what I like to do. And so in the beginning, there's this explore button, and it'll take us right to about me, and I say, nice to meet you. And I talk a little bit about my experiences and the drives that I have, and the way that I, spend a lot of my time dedicated to making the work look appropriate for the client, focusing on what they like, and also bringing a little bit of my own personality in as an option for, some flair and some color that I've done. A little bit more about me, I actually, in 2018 of June, I was commissioned by Jewelry Television to do an April Fool's design where I took the Morning Mix 6. It was 6 wonderful ladies who sell jewelry on Jewelry Television, and I was meant to draw them as superheroes. So when I did work for them, I drew them all as superheroes. They had their own personalities, and I'll get into that more in the portfolio, but just a little backstory. They had their own personalities for these superheroes, and I was meant to design their costumes, the background. All of this I did in Photoshop with samples of what they looked like, so making it look like them. And after that was, I guess, put on live TV, they invited me back for a second meetup where they awarded me with the Telly Award. And I was so surprised here because I was not expecting it. Nobody told me I was getting a Telly Award. And so I'm going to X out this to show. So this was the Telly Award for Morning Mix 6, Artist Designer Opens for Television. I was 18 at the time, and I was the youngest to receive that award for Opens in Television. And very, very thrilled about that. But those artworks that I did for Jewelry Television are coming up in my portfolio. And another project that I'm currently working on is with a movie producer in Philadelphia, and he has a Christian film coming out, and I've been helping him create designs for this creature that's going to be in his movie. It's kind of the antagonist of the film. And he had this idea in his script of a man that's got a very messy, dark face with a hat and long trench coat. So it was up to me to bring these words to life through art. And this is the poster that he loved that I made for the movie. So this is actually up in parts of Philadelphia, just advertising Echoes of a Daydream, which is the name of the movie. And this is done in Photoshop. It started as a sketch with paper, and I've learned through classes how to take your sketches, scan them in, put them in Photoshop, and then create artworks that can be posted all over the internet on billboards, brochures. And another thing that I'm doing for him, this is Stephen Morsalis is his name. He's having me design a headpiece, which is a science fiction dream capsule, it's called. So he had me do some sketches of what it could possibly look like. So I did a model, and then based on that model, I did multiple versions of how the headpiece could look. And we're currently still working on it. So I just heard back that he really likes 17 and 7. So these two I'm going back in and further developing. So there's a communication that I'm keeping with my clients, always making them feel, valued and important. And I like to overachieve. I like to give them more than they ask for. He asked for maybe 3 or 4 sketches. I gave him 18 and then some. So I wanted to make sure that I was capturing all the ideas that I had, because I'm a creative person and I feel that my brain is always running through, fantasy ideas. As soon as he said science fiction, I was like, I'm on it, already done. I sleep in one of these, here you go. So I said these. So that was the portfolio, just going over a little bit about me. And my resume is over here. I love animals, so I had to include a picture of an animal in my resume. But I have my email, everything, a little professional about me, kind of what I talked into, how I work very hard and almost lose sleep, not almost, literally lose sleep to get things done in time. Deadlines are the most important thing to me, and I pride myself in never missing a deadline, even if it means losing sleep over the project. And I have experience with Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, WordPress, and a little bit in Filmora 9. I'm taking a video production course this semester, so I'm actually starting to do video work and loving it. So I like to spread out my skills and try to get my fingers in every different thing I can. So the work experience I have had, again, is the April Fools with JTV, and then Echoes of a Daydream commission with Stephen Morsalis. And I was homeschooled up until high school, so a lot of what I did as a kid was drew. So I drew, and then that when I went to high school, took art classes through there, then came to Pellissippi with Tennessee Promise, and now from here, I'm going to be adding, UT to the bottom there. Let's go to the gallery. This is the fun part. So in the gallery, I start with illustration. So these are the commissioned works that I've done that are all focused on the illustration work that I've done, where it's freehand, whether I'm basing it off of a reference. And these are some examples of the Morning Mix 6 as superheroes. And they all had their own identities. And these ladies were very, very flamboyant in person. So I had to capture that when I was redrawing them as superheroes. So this is the Pirateer. Mandy, the Pirateer. And the next one, this is, yes, the Time Master, Jennifer. And the reason they were given these titles was from their personalities. So like Mandy loves pirates, so of course she's the Pirateer. And then Jennifer is always running late. So they made her in charge of time. And they were saying they want her to be, if she's very lively and fun. So I looked up actual references. I had my brother do poses of action poses where he's running. And based on that and using a photo reference of her face, I was able to capture her. And then of course these are all freehand, drawn little time etches, and the costume designs in the background all by me on Photoshop. And I think I should also say I had 3 days to get these done. Oh, so before April 1st, he had me he's like, hey, sorry for the short notice. I heard you can draw. Can you do this for us? I'll pay you. And I was like, of course. I don't need to sleep. And it was really the most fun and satisfying experience to get all these done. We went back and forth. And this one in particular, I didn't get her face quite photorealistic. So I went back in and kept updating. This was maybe the hardest one for me because all the other ones were very, it was more what I'm used to, but this one was, her pose was very unique, and the foreshortening, but fortunately I have a lot of experience with art, so getting around that. And then the 3 days thing was very fun, but the fashionista is Christy, so she's very fashionable, so of course I gave her a tutu, and she's casting like jewels and jewelry. This is the Crystal Commander, and this, they said, was a complicated one, so this one I had to make up on my own. They told me she's into sports, they told me she's into science fiction, so I kind of made her the Crystal Commander, Melissa, and she is just a superhero on her own planet, so she's one that's really out of this world and different. And this is one of my favorites. This is the Cat Lady. So the Cat Lady is Kristen from the Morning Mix 6. All they told me was, hey, she loves cats, what can you do? And I was like, this is how I look on weekends. I can do this superhero. She's got her, attire, but and I actually posed for this one to get the proportions right. That's very important to me to keep it looking realistic. And my own cats posed for the cat photos. So I use what I can. I don't like to steal from copyrighted things. You don't want to plagiarize. So I use my own references. And I fortunately have cats that are very photogenic, so it worked out very well. And then this next one is the Warrior Princess, more into Star Wars here. But I needed to make it a little different. They told me she loved Superwoman, so I kind of took some references from Superwoman and other, if you're into Star Wars, Jedi, which are the warriors to base for Jaina, and of course fun lighting effects to make it all look bright. And then this is them all together. This is like the Avengers poster of all our girls in their superhero attire. So this is where I brought all of the pictures together on one document and sent them all. And they're all high resolution, so they can be put up on the television screen because they were going to be aired, and they were aired April 1st. And I actually brought with me a video, and I hope there's sound. And it's a little bit fuzzy from the email that it was sent from. There should be sound in this. It's like doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo. And they showed this animation on Jewelry Television. So I was able to put these together in like a little comic book strip. And just imagine doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo. And then introducing them all. So this is what they played on Jewelry Television. It was during the break, or not during the break, but between selling jewelry. We're gonna make 6, or some of the kitties, that's Taffy and Coco. and of course the Supergirls. So they loved it, and it was the most thrilling experience to meet them in person, because when you're drawing somebody for over 48 hours straight, you wonder, okay, is this really did I get it right? And you meet them in person and say, I know you. You don't know me, but I drew you. So moving on, and this is more about Stephen Bortsalis' movie, Echoes of a Daydream. And I talk more about the details of the film. I'm not allowed to spoil the movie, though I have read the script. But to give you a rundown, there is a creature that follows the protagonist that only the protagonist can see. So he wanted this creature to be kind of sad and almost a creepy inviting. And to hear those two words together, I was like, okay, how do you make something creepy and inviting? So these are the first illustrations I did to show him. Here's what I'm thinking, here's the ideas. He loved them, so I just kept going with it. And in the beginning, this is kind of how it started. I had multiple versions of this creature that he calls the Dark Watcher. And I did lots of zombie references. He wanted to be shagged and disheveled. Again, my brother volunteered. I could use a picture of his face to get the proportions right. And just showing how the trench coat will look, how the hats will look. And we went back and forth a lot together. And then I designed a pencil drawing of maybe the creature has these phases where you can see it's not a person's face, because this creature is basically feigning that it's inviting, feigning that it's human, and I wanted to go more, here's the monster part, here's the uninviting part, but also the kind of sorrowful expression that we maintained through and through. These are the other concepts. This is like a, backstage, here's how it started, before her makeup is put on. This is kind of like the rough ideas that I had. There was a Cyclops idea that I sent to him. Again, with the overachieving, I gave him way more than he asked for, and all of them gave him nightmares, which he said is what he wanted. So keep going through. These are more sketches, all that I did on Photoshop with my pen tablet, just showing him, here's the options. The descriptions in the script are very vague, so I could branch out and kind of add my own ideas into it, which he encouraged because he was kind of at a stopping point. He didn't know, here's the idea, I don't know how this will physically look. So it was up to me to bring this guy to life. And of course there's more alien ones here. My mom really did not like these, but she was very proud, but they're just very scared. And then here's the size comparisons. Jake is the main character. So there's my brother in his hoodie that I outlined, but we don't need to tell anyone that's not Jake. That is Jake for the video. The sizes, this monster is very tall, and when that was written in the script, I knew I needed to show that. I needed to show the size as well. Because when you have a sketch on a paper, you can't really tell how tall they are. So putting it in perspective here really made it intimidating. So these are all the different versions, and we eventually went with number 3 here. And that is it for him. So that was just a backstage. Here's how it came about. And then for courses here, I have my publications. So this was a project for a PSCC class where we made a book about bulbs. It was about flowers. It's like a gardener's guide. So I started with very high definition photos, wanted it to be organized, but it had to have real information that could be used in the garden. And I did use page 5 of this in the summer, so it does work. And these are all different bulbs, and we had to give, do real research, real information, organize it about how to grow beautiful bulbs. So these are all organized in a little booklet, and we go through the pages, and there's different kinds. And I made this in Illustrator and InDesign, both back and forth, and made sure in InDesign I was keeping the fonts together, do the paragraph styles. And there's about 12 pages in this little booklet. It's some really bright and brilliant colors. And I'm going to get to the back here. That looks like the publication. So just highlighting, and I traced these little icons in Illustrator to make a little bit more excitement, because when it's just a page full of words, you get a little bored. So I wanted to try and keep it exciting, color coordinated, and fun. And then there's these full page spreads, which are beautiful to have in a booklet, right in the middle there. So more of those repeating, page 9, and back through. So all these bulbs, real information that I found. And then on the back, just the little outro of how a little booklet will look. So that was very fun to make. First booklet that I experienced, and not the last. They're very fun. And another assignment that we had was for Honeybee Coffee, and I didn't realize this was a real company until I drove by. And I went with my dad. I was like, Dad, I did a little brochure for them. So they're very cute and local coffee place. So I wanted to make this brochure fun and inviting and colorful and modern, because it is a very modern location, and it's new, and Starbucks is so popular. I wanted this to be like, if people think Starbucks, hopefully they'll gravitate towards Honeybee, because it's cute and it's fun and it's inviting and fresh. I wanted to maintain a freshness, so I have these open pictures and very fun edited stuff, little honeycombs in the corner. Traced these in Illustrator as well, so everything that I have in this was handmade. And then here's the logo, of course, on the side for the fold. And going over to this page was more editing. Editing the Honeybee Coffee on this stock photo that was, free of use, license free, but just making sure, even though it's not Honeybee Coffee's restaurant, I wanted to edit it in and make sure it stayed concise with the rest of the brochure. And then little logos of the inside. And moving on to another booklet we did, which is the newsletter for just being outdoors and getting healthy and being more physical and active outside. So all of the information here is about exercise, good diets, why it's important to get sunshine, and not stay inside behind your computer for 3 days straight, even though it's good for your client. So just some fun, exciting things about nature. And I wanted this to be, you open the page, you can almost smell the outdoors. So I wanted this to be very natural colors, organic, and of course I needed some people outside to encourage the viewer to maybe join them and want to be like them. So that's this page here. And then going down we have, I can hit the X button. So this is more logos. This is brand identity, and these are the logos that I've made here at PSCC. And one of the first ones we did was for a wine company, Tall Giraffe. And this one was fun because I didn't understand how a giraffe in wine could be one. But it does work. If you think about it, they're very tall and they probably drink a lot of wine. So it was an exciting one. But theirs is based in Africa, so that's why they used a giraffe, because this brewery's in Africa, and I never thought of that. I was like, oh, it's only wild animals in Africa. But no, there's wine breweries there. So I found a stock photo of a couple that were drinking wine in Africa. Unfortunately, that's not me and my brother. I wish it was. That would have been fun. But this is a stock photo that I used, and it's a billboard, so it's going to be seen as you're driving down the road. So you want it to be eye-catching. You want it to be simple. You want it to be quick, a glance, and you kind of understand, because you don't want people to stop and read on the freeway. Very dangerous. So Tall Giraffe logo was fun because at first it was the right side up giraffe, but then we turned it upside down, and it looked like a wine glass. So that was a very satisfying logo, and I had a lot of fun making it. And unfortunately, it's already a company, or I would have started that one. That would have been fun. And so this is Valley Quality Construction, which is in LA, so it's very high quality, expensive. So I wanted the logo to be kind of delicate and stable at the same time. It's very balanced. Because this is a construction company, I wanted it to be very, it holds itself up. So this, done in Illustrator, I made a logo that I felt conveyed the balance, but also the luxury that they have there to the high quality construction. And then this is Greenwood Humane Society, which is actually in South Carolina that I made for class. And it's a little bit, Greenwood Humane Society it's in South Carolina, and their colors are green, and they have a little tree as their logo for the city. So I thought, since this is a humane society that depends on their community for donations, it needs to convey that community when they see it, because there's so many logos out there that are just generic shapes. I wanted to make this one stand out and to give the community a connection with that logo. So this was a redesign project for the Greenwood Humane Society, and I hid a cat and dog in there because it is about the animals, but also about bringing the community together to support their humane society and to support the animals. And this was a client-based project with another student. So we were clients for each other, and her name's Shirley Crenshaw. She loves the 80s, and the only thing about that is that if I'm going to make a logo for her that resembles the 80s, it's going to look outdated. So that was a little bit of a trial and error for me, was learning how do I make this logo about her, because this logo is meant to capture her personality. How do I make this a modern, not outdated, 80s loving logo? And so I went with something a little bit 80s. You can definitely still see it in there, but it's enough, I wanted to capture enough of a modernness with that flat shape of her C. So these are actually her initials here. So her Shirley and then Crenshaw. And she loves triangles, so I thought, well, I can complete that shape here. So now moving on next. Bella Blue is a very high-end jean company. They are super expensive jeans, but gorgeous jeans, so the logo needed to convey that as well. And at first, I wanted to give it a blue color, but then at the same time, it's like that stark black and white. It's very iconic. It'll be a logo that's grabbed by people because it's simple enough, but also at the same time very lightweight and captivating. This was a personal commission for a friend of mine, and she has a little pastry bakery business that she wants to open called Sugarberry Sweets. So it started as a bear logo, and she was like, I need more, Hannah, I need a little more, what can you do? It needs something more. So I did little sketches of how the cupcake could look, how the bear could look together, and her favorite colors are blue and purple. Fortunately, I had a relationship with my client, so I knew, as a friend, I knew her to be very colorful and exciting, so I just asked her a few extra questions. I was like, do you want, what does the colorfulness mean to you? And she sent me a little description. Well, I want it to be tasty looking. I want it to be bright and eye-catching. So it was helpful to not only ask for what's your color scheme, but what those colors mean to you, because they can mean different things for different people. So once I pinpointed what she wanted those colors to convey, it was much easier to put those into a visual effect that is very tasty looking. And that is Sugarberry Sweets. And then Artistic Expression is my personal work. So I grabbed a few of my favorites, and some of these I made at Pellissippi. Some of them were put in the art show of Pellissippi, and my dad really did not want me to sell any of them. So some of them would be sold, but he actually bought them from me because he loved them so much. So they were sold, but they're still in my house with me and my dad. So this was a pen drawing. It was meant to be asymmetrical was the theme. So I did these kind of combating shapes, and I call this one Intentional Spill because it looks like a spill of just beans and everything. But this was kind of those little doodles that I do as I'm trying to warm up. It kind of transformed into something more complex. So just very organic shapes, no references used for this one. It just came to me, and it's pen on paper. This next one is of me and my dove, Fern, and he actually was sitting on my head, so I didn't have to envision that. And it's done with Prismacolor pencils, so I sat down and used a photo reference to sketch it out. And I know from my art classes that I've taken, there's a balance to art, and there's colors in our skin that don't exist, that we don't see. We see like tans, but there's really purples and yellows and reds. So with this Prismacolor pencils, I love them because I can really go crazy with the colors. and make something photorealistic. And this next one is of my grandmother's dog Hunza, and he's stealing her slipper. And I just had to draw that for her. That's actually with Grandma, so that one Dad couldn't buy from me because it was for Grandma. But this is another Prismacolor pencil drawing, again from a photo reference. I just closed it. Okay, here we are. All right, there we go. And I love animals, so capturing animals in art is a very, very fun experience for me. And I really pay a lot of attention to the eyes. I feel like the eyes are the windows to the soul, as they say. And I wanted to maintain a liveliness in an inanimate drawing. And this next one here, this is a concept art that I made of just a landscape. You know, I said in the beginning I love Bob Ross, but Bob Ross doesn't do floating islands, he doesn't do dragons. So I thought, why shouldn't I? So I did a little bit of a scenery here in Photoshop, illustrated with a pen tablet, and drew that in one night. I kind of have these bursts of creativity where I create something, leave it for a while, and then move on to the next project. So this was a fun one night sketch. This next one here you saw at the beginning. This is my introduction one. Welcome to the forest, stepping into the unknown, kind of like stepping into a portfolio that you've never seen before. And there's little footprints here. Again, this was made in Photoshop. In one night, this crow here was added a little bit later for the portfolio. I thought, if he's going to be up at the top, I want to draw him in my artwork again. And that's the nice thing of having a Photoshop file, a digital art, is that you can revisit it later and add more or change the colors completely. And next here, I play Dungeons and Dragons with my family. So as I said, I love fantasy art. So here's the concept. Didn't use many references. This all kind of exploded out of my head. As you play a tabletop role-play game, you see the story in your head, and I wanted to create that story. And this was actually a present for my brother, because he plays this big old dragon guy, and it was kind of a surprise because nobody thought I would draw the scariest scene from our campaign. But I was like, I've been drawing the Dark Watcher for a little while now. I'm ready to do some spooky drawings. And this was in my sculpture class. It's actually a log, and it was too boring. I needed it to have a little bit, an extra something. So I did a ferret with a Dremel tool. I carved by hand and sanded him out, a little ferret that's sleeping in the arch of the log. So he's kind of just, if you look at it from the side, you can kind of tell he's there sleeping. And very, very fun. It was an idea I had. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And it turns out you can. So it was very fun to find out. Another example of the sculpture that I do. So as you've seen, I do drawings and graphics design and illustrations and paintings, but I also love 3D art. So this was made out of plaster and plasticine. So the mother is the plaster that we cast out of a Tupperware, and the pup is sculpted by hand out of plasticine. And I wanted to bring them both together. We had to make a art piece that wraps around a centered point. So I decided to make this for Mother's Day, so that's Mom and me, and it's called A Mother's Love, and that's actually one of the ones that Dad bought for me. He really liked it. So hand carved with, I used wood carving tools, and it's like very blunt scraping tools that you can scrape away at the material. And it was interesting being so rough with it to make such a soft, delicate, end effect with it. This is more angles of it, because it is an all-around piece, so I want to include multiple photos of how it wraps all the way around. And then that's the end of it there. And then back to the beginning. And then if I scroll up, and I wanted to keep the background too of this portfolio or gallery side more plain, whereas the other ones it's more the backgrounds are more open, like the forest here, again with the adventure theme, you're stepping into the woods. But for the gallery I wanted to keep this section a little bit more straightforward, more focused on the works. And then there is a contact page, and I'm open for commissions, and I can stay up 3 days if needed to get the job done. And that's the end of the portfolio, but more to come as I keep continuing with Stephen Bortsalis on the movie, so maybe see more from there. Very fun.